Well, hello everyone. How are you? Welcome to YouTube Live Thursdays, where we talk about things. Today, we are talking about self hatred and surrender. And the reason I'm talking about this today is let's see, there's somebody trying to get on. Hold on one second. The reason I'm talking about that is about a year ago, I finally broke through around my feelings of disgust for my appearance and all of that. So this was a huge kind of letting go of a piece that had been with me forever. And what I saw there, I always wondered if the shame that I felt in my life was a part of that or separate from it. And what I learned at the bottom of that bottom was that it was separate. And so for the last year, I've really been sitting with that shame, and it's come across as a bunch of different things. Um, and it feels like a shame, self-hatred, hopelessness trifecta, right? So it's this series of parts kind of all working together. Good morning. Hi, Angie. Um, and it's been rather intense, for 6 months, it was pretty intense. And then I sort of broke through with new spiritual strategies. Um, things that my higher power, my God self, showed me how to sort of work with that energy, and it got appreciably better. And then over the last month, and it felt like, okay, there's a real shift here. And then over the last month, there's been several triggers. So I want to talk about that. I want to talk about my process. I want to talk about a real sort of thing, because I know at the heart of my journey in 12-step programs, um, a part of my success there and shift really came down to me being vulnerable about what was happening with me. And and then when I've done workshops, etc., or had shares, that was also true. And then sort of in my work, um, here it seems less available to do so. Plus, in general, I'm feeling better all the time, so there's less times where I'm like going through a dark patch. So this is a good time to sort of really look at and explore that. So the tools that showed up for me when I was waking up in the morning for 6 or 7 months, and the gunk was intense in the morning. And I'm sure almost everybody has experience with that. What it feels like to wake up and be in fear, or to be depressed, etc. These are very common things. And since I work with a lot of people these days, I get to see that they're a lot more common than I ever realized. And so, um, I was waking up in the mornings and being a bit overwhelmed by them, because I was very willing to go into the feelings, because that's what I've learned to do. And that's what I've taught others to do, is to how to walk into those kinds of feelings. Um, but it was heavy, and it was labored, and it was like, well, this is not what I'm used to. So then what happened is I just started kind of praying more and saying, how do you want me to handle this? And what ended up showing up was to start to move into my body more, and to go into the parts of my body that felt good, and to rest there in that sort of quiet of the body, and to sort of take a break from that intensity of the dark feelings, because there were like a number all at once, and it was very hard to sort of be with them all. And so as I did that, it was then easier to, from that connected place, to then go into the dark shadow parts. So that's the shift that I've made over the last 6 months. It's been really powerful. Um, and then in the last month or so, there's been a couple of things that happened that triggered something deep. So one of the things that I worked on for a long time was this notion of, if somebody is upset, then I must have done something wrong. In other words, I felt bad and wrong all the time. I'm guilty, like it's my fault. Um, and so that has been a real shift in my life where I just don't feel bad about myself anymore. Like this is my fault. And that's been a real blessing. And that got kicked up again as a result of a couple of different things. Um, Stuff with both of my sons. And then I had somebody in our community who said, I'm uncomfortable with you sharing all this exercise stuff. It feels like a cult. And I'm like, okay, and then I had a sort of situation with a client, and all these things triggered this, like, there's something wrong with me. I'm wrong. I'm fundamentally wrong at the core. And that triggered up this whole huge dark wave of self-hatred and hopelessness, etc. Which just in the last, week or so, I've really been working with, and it's really been, steep and dark. And so this morning was very powerful because I woke up and there that stuff was again right there, first thing in the morning. And what was great is I had very much had this surrender response where I just said, okay, go ahead, let it come. And what I really gave into, and this is why this is the title of the YouTube live this morning, what I really gave into was this intense self-hatred. And I just said, fine, come on, come and get me. Come and destroy me. It's like, go ahead. And it's just so amazing to watch. And the big lesson here in all of this is, it just kind of moved through me. And once again, I realized, oh, this thing that seems so nasty and terrible and horrible can't hurt me at all. It just kind of, all these things are paper dragons. And so the real pain that we get into in life is resisting these things. It's like the real suffering is resisting our pain, right? That's the sort of ironic thing about life. And so when I let go into it, it was like, whew, no problem, easy. And it just kind of like a wave came through. And the thing is, it felt so nice. It was so relaxing to finally like give into this. And I've been working on giving into it. So that's the thing about surrender, is not this straight line process. You can't just say, I've decided to surrender today. It kind of happens when it happens. And we prepare the ground. And one of the ways we prepare the ground is the things I teach in Unblock Your Brilliance, is being with these feelings, opening up to them, allowing them. And so then as that passed through this morning, I realized what's still there is this kind of hopelessness underneath. It's like, okay, so now this is here. And so now I get to sort of work with that. But clearing off this layer of self-hatred was just kind of beautiful. So I'm going to stop there for a moment and just see, does anybody who is present for the live have any questions? Is there anything about this process or about anything at all that you want to ask a question about? Because I like to open it up, since you're here live, to things that you're dealing with or that you want to talk about. And if not, what we'll do is I'll talk a little bit about surrender. Because surrender is kind of the key to the whole thing. And like I said, it's not something you can just decide to do, because, thank you, because it's the ego that has to surrender. I was confused about this for the longest time. I'm like, why would God create a universe where we sort of have to hit bottom? Yes, surrender is very challenging. That is absolutely right. but why would God set up a system where in order to really change, we have to hit bottom? I'm like, it's not how I would do it. Not that anybody's asking me to step into that role, but it's like, if I was designing the universe, it's like, I wouldn't necessarily go that way. And so what I realized is that it's because we're dealing with a part. And so it's very important to understand that we have parts. So if I feel depressed, it's not I'm depressed, it's I have a part that is locked in depression. If I'm angry, I'm not angry. My soul and spirit is not angry. I have a part that's locked into this anger and it's trapped in it and it can't get out. And so when we're in a place where our life isn't flowing, that's a place where the ego is in charge. And so the ego is kind of, sorry, let me drink a little something here. So the ego wants to be in charge and the ego wants to control and the ego wants to look like it's getting somewhere, but really it wants to stay in the same place because the ego is all about protection. And so we can rush around and do all sorts of things. But we end up in the same exact kind of places, defeated, hopeless, alone, whatever those places are for you. And so the ego is like this living entity. It's like one of the ways that I talked about it for a long time is the ego is like a parasite, right? And it's feeding off your life energy and it's feeding off your misery. So what it's trying to do is it's trying to keep you in this state of misery because that's its food, right? So it doesn't want to change this situation. And so it's going to fight. So as you grow into more abundance or moving toward what you want to do, it's going to fight that because it wants to stay in the same place. So it doesn't want to surrender. And that's what you're dealing with. You're dealing with trying to get this part of you, this parasite, to surrender. And you don't actually have any control over it. You don't have any control over the surrender of this parasite that has invaded your system. That's why it's so tough. And so when we sit with parts, we're being with the parts. We're allowing the parts. And we are starting to give love and space to these parts. And so slowly they come to realize that there is love in the universe. Because it's like the ego or these parts are like this. They're like a little child and they're like facing away and they're like looking into a corner of darkness and hopelessness. And they're trapped and they're feeding off their own fear and they're like lost. And they can't see all the love over here in the universe. They can't see it. They're trapped in this darkness. And so as we start to expose them to love and we start to show up for them consistently, they start to shift and see that the universe isn't what they thought it was, that it actually is a loving place. But they don't just jump and go, oh, it's safe. Safety is what they're concerned about, security. And so they hold on and they fight. And I do this exercise a lot with people these days. And that is, okay, here's this part that's holding on. Now, can you let go of 3%? And we try that. We ask the part, hey, can you let go of 3%? Does that feel better? And every time the answer is, yes, it feels better. Okay, let's go 5%. Does that feel better? Yes, it feels better. And so the ego, which feels terrible, is so afraid and wants to be safe. They hold on so tight and they feel less safe. And if we're identified with the ego, we feel less safe. We feel scared. So one of the first things we do is we start to separate from the ego. We start to get a little distance from it so that we can we step away from the ego and we almost look at it like it's a separate entity. And we say, I'm so sorry you're in so much pain. And as we bring this consciousness to that pain, it starts to shift and it starts to change. And then there comes a critical mass. And this is where, this is what seems like what's happening for me, where starts to get, you're doing all this work and it's getting better and and then it gets really bad. And that's when it's kind of, you're ready to get the poison out of the system. That's when it's really ready to sort of break. And so that's kind of what I'm talking about today. And you get to this point where the ego is now surrendering. It's saying, okay, I give up. I'm not going to fight it anymore. And that's the place that you want to get to. You want to get to a place where the ego is letting go, and you are consistently showing up for it prepares the ground. I have somebody I work with, and they say, all you can do is prepare the ground for surrender. So let's do a little meditation today on surrender and on preparing the ground for surrender. And I just want to share one other thing, just, because I talk and work with a lot of people across a lot of different platforms. One of the big sort of pieces that's been showing up lately is this sort of talking to God, right? And the thing to say to God when you're talking to God is, God, show me around everything. Show me what your will for me is around abundance. Show me what you want work to look like for me. Show me, right? It's kind of a really powerful thing. So that can just be a running kind of mantra. God, show me what your will is for me. Show me how you want me to live. Show me how you want me to think. Show me. And that's a way to sort of work towards surrender too. That is a surrender. Show me is a surrender. It's saying, okay, my ego doesn't know the way, and I consistently follow my ego. And so I'd like to stop doing that. So God, you show me how you want me to be. That is one of the ways we can start to prepare the ground. Okay, so let's go into a meditation. So close your eyes. Take a nice big deep breath. Move into your heart space. Put all your attention in your heart and notice, how is it feeling right now? Like, for instance, my heart is feeling sad. So just be with whatever's there and then come down into your solar plexus, just below your heart. And what's the energy there? The energy in my solar plexus feels calm and sturdy. And I notice too that my posture starts to straighten up as I connect to this place. And I find that often, if I want to work on my posture, a lot of times I'll go into my body, and my body will naturally start to adjust as I start to bring consciousness into it. Now I come down into my belly and just feel the energy that's there. And for me, that feels very good. It feels like a welcome hug. And now come down into your tailbone. What does your tailbone feel like right now? For me, my tailbone the energy feels very open. And these are parts of the body, these are sort of chakra points, energy points, which for me have cleared up a lot over the last several years as I've brought more attention to them. And so if they don't feel open for you, that's okay. There's still all this energy there. And as you spend time in these places, you'll start to see this beautiful sort of energy underneath. Eckhart Tolle calls it the subtle energy body or something like that. He talks about the pain body. And he talks also about the subtle body. Maybe that's what he calls it. Which I tap into a lot these days because there's a lot of great energy there all the time. That's kind of what I was talking about, is tapping into these places where there's peace and love all the time, despite the emotions that are storming on top. Okay, so come back into your heart and feel whatever's there. Like for me, it's sadness. And then I want you to go underneath the heart and see if you can feel that subtle energy underneath the heart, that lovely energy. So I'm going to say a little prayer as we're here in our heart. God, please help us to surrender. Please show us where we're holding on, where parts of us are holding on, and help us to bring love and compassion and tenderness and caring to these parts. Help us to hold them. Help us to see past their fear, their anger, their disappointment, their hopelessness, their sadness, Help us see through all those things to the love underneath and beyond those things. And help us to heal these parts of us that are locked in pain. Open our hearts, our minds, and our bodies, and show us how to let go where we're bound, and show us how you want us to live. Show us how you want us to breathe, and show us how you want us to think and speak. Because what you want for us is the best. And the parts of us that are in pain and suffering don't know that. They had a lifetime and a childhood of not trusting those closest to them, not feeling like they had their best interest at heart, and they're locked in that paradigm. Help us to show them that there's something different happening. So I want you to connect to a part that is afraid inside of you. If it's in your heart space, fine. If it's somewhere else, fine. Where you feel its resistance and you feel its fight. And we're going to talk to this part a little bit. Notice how it's scared. Notice how it wants to pull away. Maybe it doesn't even like to be seen. Maybe it feels open to this energy, to our energy of love and compassion, but it's not sure. It doesn't feel safe. Just notice whatever state that it's in. And we're going to talk to it. I see how scared you are. I see how afraid you are to take chances, to try things. I see that you want to withdraw and try to disappear. I'm sorry you feel so scared. I want you to know that we're here for you, and the universe loves you. And the universe wants you to come out and play. The universe wants you to be happy. And notice how unhappy you are in your hiding. Can you see that all that hiding and constricting and clutching in fear is just making it worse or keeping it the same? Open your heart. Open your mind. Open the cells of your body. Open everything you can to the sunlight of the spirit and let that sunlight shine in on this part that's so afraid. And let the hands of God reach in and hold this part. And how does that part feel? Being loved, being seen, being appreciated, being held. Feel that contact between your higher power and this part. Have this part look up at all the love surrounding it. How does it react to it? It may not trust it. It may fight it. But it's now starting to know that it's there. And that's what we want, because now we're beginning a journey where it's only a matter of time. This part can see the love. It can feel that it's there, even though it's afraid of it. But at a certain point, it's going to say, you know what? I want that love. I don't want to live all alone by myself in fear anymore. And it will start to slowly see and trust and let go. And that's how you break free, when the ego finally gives up. Okay, good. So wrap your arms around you and just give yourself that little squeeze, that hug, and hold yourself tight. And let that part know that you're there, that God is there, that the whole universe is there, loving them and supporting them. Okay, very good. Nice, big, deep breath. And now open your eyes. And so, what we want to do is we want to cultivate this spirit of surrender so that whatever that comes up in our life that's challenging, we surrender to it. We let go into it. And so, for today, like using myself as an example, it's like there was all this self hatred and this anger. And it's like, okay, can I lean into that? Can I let go into that? And why would you want to? You might say, why would I give up to a thing like that? And the answer is to see that it can't hurt me, to lay down my arms and stop fighting, because it's the fight all the time that's so painful. And the giving up is easy and relaxing. So I want to encourage all of you, wherever you're fighting, wherever you're holding on tight, bring this love and compassion and start letting go into it. Feel the terrible thing. It's like, for people who are scared of shots, it's like it's this moment, but we're so afraid of the pain. And what we're really afraid of more is our imagination. The pain is over so quickly. And it's the same thing here. We're afraid of our imagination of what the pain is going to do to us, but it can't hurt us. And so for me, this is a repeat of what happened 6 years ago. And it's here comes this bottom, and it's about time for me. They say all the cells of the body change every 7 years. And I'm like, it seems about right. Like every 5.5 to 7 years, I go through a pretty big shift and kind of go to the next level, so to speak. And so right now I'm in the gunk, right? And I just want to sort of share that with you because it's this process of surrendering and letting go to life. And then every case where I've allowed myself to let go to life, my life has opened up and blossomed in ways that I can't imagine. And so for me, that's why it's never comfortable. It's never easy. And so, what I get to surrender into today and see, this is what I don't know is here was all this anger and all this self-hatred, and that moved through me and kind of isn't there. But what's there, and that might just be for today, but what's there is this sadness, this sadness and this hopelessness. So was that underneath the anger? Was the anger protecting that? We'll see. We'll see. But I just wanted to sort of share what the process looks like because it's just an ongoing journey, but the practice is always the same. It's like, how do I stop fighting this? How do I let go into this? How do I breathe into it? How do I stop running away from it? Okay. So we're almost out of time. Are there any questions that anybody has? Oh, and just to throw it out there, I want to do another like 5-day challenge and schedule that for the week after next. And I was thinking of doing something along the lines of unblock your body. And I don't know if that would be interesting. If there's anybody in here, how does that sound? Or is there a topic that you want to talk about more? You can go ahead and throw that out. Okay, well, we'll see. We'll see what transpires with that. Okay, well, I thank you all for being here. Great to have you. Good, good. Somebody was saying that they appreciate the hand of God. Yeah, and it's like when I go into those meditations, I don't know what's going to happen or what I'm going to say, and it's like that's what showed up, and it's like that's the beauty of this whole process is when you let go, you see what shows up. Okay, I hope you're all well. Thanks for being here today, and I'll see you next Thursday. And when we do a 5-day challenge in Unblock Your Brilliant in the Unblock Your Brilliance community, I'll be sure to let you know. Hope you're doing great. Look out for some new YouTube videos, and have a wonderful life until I see you again. Okay, bye. Woo.